In a world more connected than ever, why do so many men feel completely alone? Not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually, and mentally detached from everything that once made life feel whole. Stoicism doesn't ignore this pain. It looks it in the eye and teaches you how to turn isolation into strength. Because when no one is coming to save you, philosophy becomes your shield, and solitude your training ground. Part 1. Humility. There was a time when solitude felt like punishment. The silence after sunset, the empty room, the absence of a single voice that knew your name. It didn't feel like freedom. It felt like failure. But this is exactly where the Stoics began, not in comfort, but in the uncomfortable truth of reality. The ancient Greek virtue tapinosis is often translated as humility, but it runs deeper than that. It means lowering yourself, not in shame, but in surrender. Humility is the recognition that you are not entitled to constant connection, attention, or affection, that life will not always orbit around you, and that the moments when it doesn't are the very moments that forge character. When you're lonely, your instinct is to escape, to call someone, scroll endlessly, distract yourself into oblivion. But the Stoic path isn't about distraction, it's about awareness. We suffer more in imagination than in reality, Seneca wrote. What he meant was that our pain often comes not from the event, but from our resistance to it. Loneliness hurts the most when you label it as failure. But what if you didn't? What if you sat with it, without judgment? That's what humility demands, not reaction, but reflection. The courage to admit, I'm alone right now, and that's okay. In that stillness, something unexpected happens. You begin to see clearly. That clarity is where journaling becomes a weapon. When you write with honesty, your thoughts slow down. Your fears lose power. The chaos in your head becomes ink on a page, and suddenly, you're no longer drowning in it. Marcus Aurelius didn't just write meditations for the world. He wrote it to survive the weight of his own mind. You can do the same. Start with a single sentence. Right now, I feel. Then let the rest follow. You don't need a therapist or an audience. You need humility and a blank page. Part 2. Empathy. Loneliness doesn't just make you feel like no one understands. It convinces you that no one even cares. And over time, this illusion becomes a cage, one you build with your own hands. You check your phone, no messages. You scroll through stories. Everyone seems to be somewhere else, laughing, surrounded, living. Meanwhile, you're stuck inside your head, haunted by silence. But here's the truth Stoicism offers, and it's hard to swallow at first. You are not special in your suffering. That might sound harsh, but it's freeing. Because once you realize your pain is not unique, you begin to understand that it's also not permanent. Others have felt what you're feeling and made it through. The Stoics called this sympathia, a deep recognition that we are all fragments of the same whole. Different stories, same core, same struggles. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What brings no benefit to the hive brings no benefit to the bee." Translation: your healing begins when you help someone else heal. Don't wait for someone to call. Be the first to call. Don't wait for the perfect friend. Be the friend you wish you had. Empathy is not always soft. Sometimes it's an act of discipline. To stop obsessing over your own void and pour into someone else. That might mean volunteering once a week, donating time, giving advice, sending a voice note that says, "I was thinking about you. How are you holding up?" Or maybe it's creating something, a video, a blog, even just a comment that lifts someone out of their darkness. Because when you shift from, "Why is no one helping me?" to, "Who can I help?" you step back into your power. You realize you were never as alone as you thought. Not in this moment, not in this life. Empathy reconnects you with the world, and more importantly, with the part of yourself that still wants to give. Part 3. Gratitude. Most people think gratitude is soft, a comfort blanket, a positive vibe, but the Stoics didn't see it that way. Eucharistia, the word they used for gratitude, wasn't passive, it was powerful, a tool to reframe reality, especially when reality feels cold, unfair, or hollow. Gratitude wasn't reserved for celebrations. It was practiced in exile, in silence, in heartbreak. Because the Stoics knew something most people forget. Your mind is not designed to make you happy. It's designed to keep you alive. That means your brain scans for danger, not blessings. And unless you train it, you'll always default to fear, to lack, to comparison. So they trained it with ritual, with writing, with awareness. Marcus Aurelius wrote pages upon pages to remind himself of what he still had, not what he'd lost. He wrote them not because he felt strong, but because he felt weak. Because even as emperor, he faced nights of doubt, loss, and deep internal loneliness. Sound familiar? You don't need a throne to feel isolated. Sometimes all it takes is a silent apartment and the sense that the world has moved on without you. But this is where the practice begins. Here's the challenge. Take a blank piece of paper. At the top, write, "I am grateful for," then list 30 things. Yes, 30. Not 3, not 5, 30. At first, it'll feel forced. You'll repeat yourself. But somewhere around number 12, you'll surprise yourself. You'll write something like, "I'm grateful for the time I was betrayed, because it taught me who I am." Or, "I'm grateful I didn't get that job, because it gave me space to build something better." That's when the shift happens. You begin to realize loneliness didn't empty you. It stripped away distractions, so you could finally see what's still standing. And here's the science. Gratitude floods your brain with dopamine. It rewires the narrative from "I am missing something" to "I already have something." And once your mind tastes appreciation, even for a moment, the spell of loneliness begins to break. That's Stoicism. Not high-level theory. Just one man, one moment, one thought, held long enough to change everything. Part 4. Patience and visualization. When you're lonely, time slows down. Minutes feel like hours. You check your phone again, still nothing. But this exact moment is where Stoic training begins. Not in comfort, but in the crucible of waiting. The Stoics called it macrothymia, long suffering, the ability to endure without flinching. But they didn't just sit still. They imagined with intention. Because in the emptiness of solitude, you have a rare gift, time to shape the mind. And so, let's do what they did, not later, right now. Close your eyes, breathe in, slowly. Hold it for 4 seconds. Breathe out, slowly. Now, picture yourself, not as you are, but as you could be. You wake up early, no phone, no noise. You sit with a journal and write down exactly what you're building. Your room is clean, minimal. Your body is strong, not just fit, but capable. You move through the day with calm presence, not reaction. You speak with intention. You listen deeply. You're respected, not because you demand it, but because your presence earns it. Now look at your circle. You've outgrown the people who didn't believe in you. Around you are those who push you forward. They challenge you. They respect your path. And in the background, there's peace. A quiet kind that doesn't come from external applause, but from inner alignment. This is the life you are rehearsing. And each time you visualize it, with clarity, with patience, your actions begin to follow. Not because you forced the future, but because you trained your mind to walk toward it. Loneliness is no longer the enemy, is now the training ground. One breath at a time, one vision at a time, one future being shaped in silence. Part 5. Generosity. Loneliness tells you that you're invisible, that you don't matter, that you have nothing left to offer. But the Stoics believed something radically different. The moment you feel most empty is when you have the greatest opportunity to give. They called it philanthropia, not just charity, but human-heartedness. The practice of serving, helping, and caring, even when your own tank feels low. Because that's the secret. You don't wait until you're full to give. You give, and through giving, you refill. Imagine this. It's a cold evening. You're walking home, headphones in, eyes down, lost in thought. Then you see someone, a stranger, sitting on the sidewalk with nothing but a plastic bag and a tattered coat. For a second, your own loneliness vanishes. You reach into your pocket. You offer your sandwich, or your time, or your warmth. That's not just kindness. That's Stoicism in motion. A shift from self-absorption to service. Marcus Aurelius said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." And what's right, in a world full of quiet suffering, is to give what you can, while you can. Maybe you volunteer at a shelter. Maybe you call your grandmother. Maybe you write a message to someone who once saved you, just to say thank you. And if there's no one around you right now, be generous with yourself, not through escapism, but through care, through structure, through discipline. Put down the phone, drink water, clean your space, set your alarm early, journal honestly. That's generosity too, the kind that builds a foundation when no one else is watching. Because here's the Stoic paradox. The more you give, the less lonely you feel. Not because the world changes, but because you do. When you serve, you rise. When you offer, you grow. And when you become a light for others, you realize you were never truly alone. Not in pain, not in progress, not in purpose. Most people think loneliness is something to escape. The Stoics saw it as something to enter, to face, to transform. Because when you stop running from solitude and start listening to it, you don't just survive, you evolve. You begin with humility. You reach out through empathy. You reframe through gratitude. You train your mind with patience. And you give even when you feel you have nothing left. That's the path. That's the process. And the next time you're alone, ask yourself this: what is this moment trying to teach me? That answer, it might be the beginning of everything you've been looking for.